Hi, everyone. How are y'all? Happy Thursday. Oh, let me double check the mic. Okay, and now the right mic is working. How are y'all doing? So, we are going to have a weekly live stream at a certain point in the week at this point. It's either going to be Tuesdays or Thursdays, and hopefully it'll be on Tuesday, but if you don't see me on Tuesday, that means by Thursday I'll pop up over here. So, today we are going to be circling back to a topic I talked about almost 2 years ago, which is Wendy Williams' conservatorship/guardianship in the state of New York. It is referred to as a guardianship. We are going to be talking about this because rightfully she is finally starting to get a lot more press coverage regarding the guardianship, and people are finally starting to ask the right questions of how did this happen, why did this happen, and most importantly, how does Wendy Williams get out of this? So let's get into it. So this is going to be our agenda: Wells Fargo circa 2022 and the Wendy Williams guardianship petition. And then we're going to talk about her guardian, her legally appointed guardian, which is Sabrina Morrissey. And it's important that her name is mentioned because Sabrina Morrissey is a career guardian. Yes, she last year alone, the judge that is overseeing Wendy's case right now, which is Justice Lisa Sokoloff, the estimation is that she appointed a total in the year of 2024, 22 guardianships to Sabrina Morrissey. And I have a lot of questions about that. So then we are also going to get into why there needs to be necessary legal changes to the guardianship slash conservatorship laws, why there needs to be legal changes to how this goes about. This is a very antiquated process. It's often a very gendered process. It's usually happens to people of a certain age. However, some of the legislation that people are proposing now does not get to the root of the problem. So we're going to talk about potential legislation as well. Yes, and the reason why I bring that up is career guardian being a thing is insane. It is. It is objectively wild if you look into somebody and that is how they make their money, by controlling other people's money. It's very interesting because she is in no relation, obviously, to Wendy Williams. She was a random woman appointed by the judge, and she is in no relation to the other 22 people which the judge assigned her to be their guardian. Even though some of these people, including Wendy Williams, have family that have spoken up for the past 3 years and have said if she needs anybody to help her, they are more than willing to help. So we are going to get into that. Hey, Tima. Hi, Benjamin. And then, yes, this week, the reason why we're going to have the live stream on Tuesday, because Monday, was Monday, was foolishness. And we will get into, if you are keeping up with politics, I have something to announce for y'all in a second as well. So first and foremost, a huge shout out and thank you to Patreon, particularly an extra thank you to my Sancerre tier of Allison W., Ed Guy, Juanita, Judy, and Robert. I appreciate all of y'all over there. We will probably be doing a Patreon video probably on Sunday. And then somebody did ask if the Politics Pops video, if they'll be uploaded to Patreon. Julie and I were just talking about that. So they're probably also going to get uploaded to Patreon as well. So you will see those soon. Speaking of politics, oh my goodness, thank you so much, Sova. I appreciate that. I'm going to use this money, which for context, YouTube takes about 30% of super chats, which is wild. Like, what did they do to deserve my money? Anyways, I am going to use the money that I get from this super chat. Thank you. It'll go towards my student loans. So I really appreciate you. Any money that you give during the super chats for this, just know it goes to the student loans. So huge shout out to you and to y'all. I appreciate y'all. Actually, a quick student loan update. That video, the student loan video, I recorded it on Monday. The only thing to keep sanity on my end, I was like, I'll just do a bunch of work. So I recorded that video. It should be uploaded by Sunday. I have to review the edit. Shout out to Candace, my editor. Thank you, Candace. She did send it to me. So I just need to put my brain back on and review it. So we'll be talking about my student loans, and estimated by my birthday in March, I should finally be under 6 figures, which if you've been following my student loan journey for the past 4 years over here on YouTube, my starting balance when I started paying my student loans was $304,680.17 trifling cents. You are hearing that correctly. And that, after recalculating, is inclusive of an estimated 90,000 mother effing dollars of interest, aka money I did not borrow. So again, thank you to that super chat. It is going towards advantage in them student loans. So I appreciate you. All right. So, speaking of new series and things coming up, and speaking of the events of Monday, which we're 5 minutes in, so I guess I can say the N word. No, not that word. The other one, which on Monday, Elon Musk decided he wanted to do a Nazi salute. And the media, because the media loves to coddle white men, particularly white men of means, decided that they wanted to call it a straight arm gesture or an accident. It wasn't an accident. He did it twice. He did that Nazi salute twice to let all of us know that overt fascism is in and covert fascism is out. Yes, with the swearing in of that man. So we won't get into politics too much right now. But if you're interested in keeping up with the news in a way that hopefully is informative, attempts to lower your blood pressure a bit, and also lets you know what is currently going on, Julesy and I have started a new series and a new channel called Politics Popped. I'll make this bigger. You can go ahead and subscribe if you would like. It's free. You might as well subscribe. It's going to be Monday, Wednesdays, and Friday. We have been sticking to this around 9:30 a.m. On Wednesday, it was 9:40, but that's pretty close. So you can start your mornings with us and know what's going on. Our goal is to be actionable while also delivering, the news to you. So let me go ahead and give y'all the link to that YouTube, and y'all can go ahead and subscribe. We also will be streaming on Twitch. We're trying something new. Do I know how Twitch works? No. Does that matter? Also, no. Hold on. Wait, I definitely spelled this wrong. Okay, here we go. So if you want to start your Monday, Wednesday, Friday with us, we will be over there at 9:30 a.m. It's safe to show up at 9:45. We're getting there. The original time was 9 a.m. Yeah, we tried that once. That was rough. So 9:30 it is. So if you would like to join Julesy and I again, you can go head over to Twitch if you have Twitch already. It's free on Twitch, or if you're already on YouTube, you might as well subscribe from YouTube and watch the live stream there. And then we were just discussing this. All of those live streams, they will then be saved onto both of our Patreons. All right, so let's get into it. Okay, so to talk about what is currently going on with Wendy Williams, we have to take it back 3 years because unfortunately she has been in this guardianship, which guardianship can be traded out in the state of New York for conservatorship. They are one and the same. This has been going on for 3 years. So we're going to take it back to 2022. All right. So this is an article from Variety from February 14th, Valentine's Day, 2022. In an affidavit filed with the New York Supreme Court, Williams states, "For more than 2 weeks, Wells Fargo has repeatedly denied my request to access my financial assets, which total over several $1 million. The estimation was Wendy Williams had actually about $50 million in her account. I have submitted multiple written requests to Wells Fargo, and I have visited various Wells Fargo branches in the South Florida area in an effort to resolve this matter outside of the courtroom. To date, I have submitted and made over a dozen requests regarding the financial damages resulting from Wells Fargo's decision to unlawfully deny me access to my accounts. As a result of my inability to access my financial assets, I have defaulted and I am at risk of defaulting on several billing and financial obligations, including but not limited to mortgage payments and employee payroll." Now, it should be noted that before this happened, Wendy Williams had a financial advisor from Wells Fargo who she did not trust, and she came to the conclusion that the financial advisor was doing something funny, and she fired the financial advisor. It was also publicly noted during this time that unfortunately Wendy's trifling ex-husband, Kevin Hunter, went on a spree of being the most trifling person he decided he could be. He had a child with somebody else whom he was not married to. He bought his now wife, who was his extramarital partner at the time. He bought her a house in their same neighborhood for said child with Wendy's money. He did all of these awful things. Wendy also, unfortunately, at this time, her mother had passed away. She was going through a lot. She has always been very transparent, as well as her son Kevin Jr., that she was suffering through and from alcoholism, to which she willingly checked herself into rehab to get help for that. However, what Wells Fargo decided to do was unprecedented and is still unprecedented at the time, which these are old articles. Again, this is from March 25th, 2022. An attorney representing Wells Fargo requested the company's petition be filed under seal. So what they did is Wells Fargo then filed a petition for guardianship for Wendy Williams. Now, it should be noted in the original video that I did on Wendy Williams guardianship and financial abuse, which is the title of that video, about a year and a half ago, Wells Fargo took it upon themselves, after following, in my opinion, the news headlines of Wendy going through all this turbulence. They then went to the court as an entity and as a corporation and stated that Wendy Williams was unwell, that they felt that maybe she was suffering from financial abuse, which was ironic since she accused her own financial manager from Wells Fargo of potential fraud and financial abuse. And they then petitioned to the court. If you currently were to try to look up this case, you cannot find these legal documents in the court, on the court website for New York State Supreme, because it has all been sealed. If you are interested in seeing the original court documents, Emily D. Baker did do a video about almost 3 years ago, 3 years ago, in 2022, where she has those court documents and she goes through the court documents of the original petition. The petition has now been sealed, and according to this article, the reasoning, they did this a month after they filed the petition. They got the judge, which again is Justice Lisa Sokoloff, of Supreme Court here in Manhattan. They got her to seal the records. So according to the article from 2022 and March 25th, as we have expressed to the court, Wells Fargo is open to working with Miss Williams' counsel to release funds directly to her creditors for bills historically and regularly paid from her accounts. An attorney representing Wells Fargo requested that the company's petition be filed under a seal, according to a letter dated February 9th, obtained by NBC News, February 9th, 2022. The letter confirmed that Wells Fargo placed a temporary hold on Williams' account under Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, or FINRA Rule 2665, under the justification that the company suspects Williams is a, and quote, victim of undue influence in financial exploitation. Which again is very ironic and objectively wild, because one, it is very much outside of the scope of that FINRA regulation. Second, the undue influence in financial exploitation, according to Wendy Williams, her niece Alex, as well as various members of her family, is from Wells Fargo. It should be noted as well, if you watch the original live stream I did, the beginning of that live stream is a deep dive into the allegations by regular people against Wells Fargo for the past decade. Wells Fargo has had to settle a multi-million-dollar lawsuit because they were denying home loans to Black people. They have also, when you settle a lawsuit, you are able as a corporation, and depending on how good your lawyer is as an individual, they were able to state, yes, we are settling this lawsuit. However, we are not taking blame. These are just allegations, and we just happen to be paying out money. They are taking blame, but legally they are not taking blame for those instances. They have also been accused of stealing various clients' monies. I think it's safe to say at this point, Wells Fargo has been known for the better part of the decade through various write-ups as one of the most notoriously nefarious banks in this country. At the time when this occurred, I had a Wells Fargo bank account. I no longer have a Wells Fargo bank account. Between them and Bank of America, I'll never forget the triflingness of Bank of America when I was in law school at the time. Bank of America did not have any physical branches in the state of Louisiana. And I was broke in law school, and I overdrafted my account because I went to the grocery store. I overdrafted the account by, I think, $1. They charged me $35. I ain't got $1. Now you charge me $35. It was negative $36. I called them crying, saying, hey, my financial aid is supposed to come in. This is a Saturday. It's going to come in on Monday. Can you reverse it? They told me no. And they told me no in such a mean-spirited way that when I finally moved to New York the year later, because I kept the account until then, I walked into the branch and I closed the account. Bank of America is also very raggedy. At this point, I think for what it's worth, since I've had Chase all these years, it's been about, oh my gosh, almost 10 years. I'm a eighth year this year. No, I'm a ninth year attorney this year. Wild. Chase has done me right. So Chase, I would say, is the least problematic of the banks for what it's worth. All right. So I am going to, just for context, play this clip of what a guardianship is. And so we can talk about one of the big elephants in the room, which is how did a corporation get a guardianship over Wendy Williams? And this is from the original live stream from about a year and a half ago. So financial guardianship and conservatorship is the same thing. You can use them interchangeably. Again, it just depends on the state. The interesting part that I highlighted here, so this is from newyorkcourts.gov in the state of New York, which her financial guardianship is under New York, is specifically to obtain an Article 81 guardian, a person over the age of 18 or entity, which is alarming, must first file a case in court and prove that a guardian is necessary. The person or entity that files for the appointment of an Article 81 guardian is called a petitioner. Typically, the petitioner is the alleged incapacitated person's family member or a qualified. Okay, shout out to old me. Clearly, the lighting has gotten a lot better. Clearly, we've put growth has happened, as you can see from that video to now. So one of the most surprising things, and the thing that I'm so shocked about as a lawyer who on this channel has covered a lot of different types of cases, is in the state of New York, anyone can file a petition for guardianship for anyone. And that is objectively wild. We'll get into in a second, some of the legislation being proposed, while it would seem like it's a good start, is not going far enough. Because why in the state of New York can anyone simply, if you can afford the filing fee, go down to New York State Supreme and say, you know what? That's Stephanie always chatting, always doing this. I'm gonna file this paperwork. It is objectively wild. And that is what Wells Fargo, they went and did. And to back up their claims, they allegedly, and according to Wendy Williams, illegally obtained her medical information. Mind you, again, this is a woman who has admitted, hey, my life has had a lot of ups and downs. Yes, I have been relied on alcohol. At a certain point, she did admit that she had alcoholism. That is not the same as being incapacitated. And also voluntarily checking yourself into rehab for help does not mean a bank should be in control of what you are doing. Now, let's continue for 1 second. Currently, what happened last week, Wendy Williams went on The Breakfast Club. The Breakfast Club decided they finally would use their platform to do something positive. 2 claps for them for that. And then she also spoke to Don Lemon. And she did 2 separate interviews. And it's interesting because one of the things that is being claimed, not only by Wells Fargo, still their PR team, but also by Sabrina Morrissey, who is her court-appointed guardian, is that they are claiming that not only is she incapacitated, that she has dementia, as well as aphasia, I believe is how you pronounce it. I'll show that document, that she has dementia as well as aphasia. Now, if you listen to these interviews, it is very clear that as somebody who's not a medical doctor, there have been medical doctors chiming in, as well as nurses, other people. As somebody who can simply use their common sense, it's very clear that she does not have dementia. Particularly, she doesn't have that, as well as she does not have what they're stating to the extent that they're stating. It should be noted that one of the reasons why this is coming up is because Wendy Williams herself commissioned a documentary team to do a 4-part series on Lifetime, to which she wanted to call out her conservator, as well as the entire guardianship process. That documentary is extremely hard to watch because you do see her in a very deteriorated state. However, the state in which she is in during the documentary does not seem to be the state in which she's in during these interviews, which occurred live last week. So we will play a clip of that for 1 second. I want to make sure. Okay, I think maybe I have it afterwards. Make sure these are in order. Okay, I'll make sure there. So this is a clip from Wendy Williams interview on The Breakfast Club. And for context, the reason why Charlemagne has a career is because of Wendy Williams. She hired him to be on her radio show almost 20 years ago, and she gave him the opportunity. What he has done with that opportunity, I have strong thoughts, but it's not about him right now. So let's play this clip. Also, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate you. Boo, Wells Fargo, tomato, tomato, tomato. Yes. Yes. Okay. So let's play this clip. And this is from last week. All right. So essentially, what happened, one of the hosts of the Breakfast Club, after Wendy Williams agreed to do the interview, she then went over to the best way to describe it, as Wendy Williams describes it, she describes the place that she's being held as a luxury prison. It seems to be as if they have put her in some type of nursing home, home assisted care, where the majority of the residents are elderly people in their 80s and 90s that do seem to have diagnoses of dementia, certain things. Wendy Williams, to note, is 60 years old. She is significantly younger than the majority of the residents. In the interview, she goes on to state she's not allowed to see her room, as evidenced by the person that went to visit her. People have to call her guardian in order to see her. Her guardian has to approve. And then the staff at the facility, which is in New York, they are essentially deciding whether or not she's allowed to have visitors. This is textbook, according to the law, false imprisonment, which false imprisonment is the tort to kidnapping. So if you were going to sue in civil court, this is false imprisonment, holding somebody against their will when they are stating they want to leave. She's stated numerous times, not only does she want to leave, she wants to do normal things with her money. She also would like to be in South Florida with her family who has been denied by the judge to take care of her, which is very interesting that the judge would be denying a family in favor of, again, Sabrina Morrissey is a stranger and a career guardian. If you listen to the interview, Wendy Williams sounds not only in her right mind, she sounds like her regular chatty self. She's speaking very fast, which she does all the time anyway. And then she also seems to have a very good grasp of what she legally is not allowed to say, because in the interview, her niece is also in the interview. So the niece is advocating for her, I would say, like in a more blunt, direct manner, and is talking about the guardianship in a more direct manner. And even the niece has self-censored herself in a certain manner as well, if you listen to the interview, in an effort to not legally break the contractual obligations of the guardianship that they as a family have been forced into. So I do recommend that you listen to the interview. I did think it was very surprising and startling that the staff at this facility has no shame, no care about restricting who is allowed to see her. They're letting other people know that they do not care about the law as well, in what seems like a very unsafe environment. And it should be noted, so this is from the original 2022. Oh, no, correction. This is from the recent lawsuit that Sabrina Morrissey, her guardian, filed, and the Guardian filed a lawsuit against Lifetime for the documentary, stating, and quote, that Wendy Williams was being used and abused in the documentary, and that she did not approve the documentary, and that Wendy Williams was not paid enough. In the interview with Charlemagne and The Breakfast Club, Wendy Williams states that she only has access to $15. This is a woman that in court documents before they were sealed, Wells Fargo had taken control of her $50 million. Is very interesting now, and a lot of people have rightfully come to the conclusion that her guardian is only suing because her guardian wants more access to her money, and her guardian does not care about the direction of that documentary, which Wendy Williams has stated over and over again that she did the documentary because she's trying to expose how she's being treated. Interestingly enough, in that lawsuit, it states in May 2023, this is Wendy Williams' initials, Wendy Williams Hunter was diagnosed by doctors at Weill Cornell Medical Center. That Weill Cornell is one of the preeminent medical centers here in New York, with frontotemporal lobe dementia and primary progressive aphasia. cruel, debilitating, and progressive neurodegenerative diseases that result in significant and readily apparent behavioral changes and gradually rob their victims of the ability to communicate at all. FTD often significantly shortens life expectancy, and Wendy Williams is only 60 years old. Paying close attention to the part where she is claiming, this is in the lawsuit from 2024, gradually rob their victims of the ability to communicate at all. If you listen to two interviews that Wendy Williams did, both are over 30 minutes long, she's communicating fine. She sounds exactly the same as she sounds on Hot Topics. If anything, she does sound a bit anxious. And rightfully, if you are being kept in a room, according to her, she's being kept in that room. She is not allowed to leave the room unless she asks permission. She is not allowed to go. She'd like to go to Sephora, she stated, to get new makeup. She's not allowed to do that. They send somebody else out to run any errands she would like to do. She has a phone, her niece stated, a landline phone in which she can make outgoing calls, but no one is allowed to call her. It would be logical to contribute any type of anxiety that you kind of hear in the interviews to the fact that she's being locked in a room. It's very interesting, and it harkens back to Britney Spears' case, where in Britney Spears' case, her new lawyers did successfully argue that Britney Spears' father, Jamie Spears, that he himself had specifically hired certain doctors to say that she was incapacitated, she was all these things. However, the main point that lawyers for Britney Spears, as well as advocates for her, and as well as advocates for Wendy Williams, similarly state, you cannot both be incapacitated and also forcing the person to work. Britney Spears conducted so many concerts, so many press. Well, she did very little press at the time when she was under her conservatorship, but every once in a while they would have her do press, etc. While her father continued to claim, well, I got this doctor's note and the doctor said she's incapacitated. It's not possible. Wendy Williams being able to do these interviews, being able to have complete conversation with people is directly opposite to what her guardian is claiming in these very recent legal documents. All right, so which would bring us to Sabrina Morrissey and the Lifetime documentary lawsuit. Okay, this is Sabrina Morrissey, as you can see here. So that clip was from the lawsuit she filed last year, and she filed that lawsuit against A&E Television Networks, Entertainment One, Reality Productions, Lifetime Entertainment, Creature Films, and Mark Ford, who I believe is the producer. And very interestingly enough, she is filing it, Sabrina Morrissey, acting in her capacity as guardian of Wendy Williams. However, if you look through the document, there are huge redactments throughout what should be a very simple civil court filing. However, because they are trying to shroud the entirety of this guardianship in secrecy, a lot of any documents having to do with the court with Wendy Williams are either completely sealed or have huge redactments. So according to the lawsuit, what Sabrina Morrissey and her team filed, she is also a lawyer here in the state of New York. And interestingly enough, like I had said earlier, she is a career guardian. She has been doing this for many years. She gets assigned these cases from various state court judges. This case arises from the brutally calculated, deliberate action of powerful and cravenly opportunistic media companies working together with a producer to knowingly exploit Wendy Williams, an acclaimed African-American entertainer who tragically suffers from dementia and as a result has been cognitively impaired, permanently disabled, and legally incapacitated. And then the rest of the first paragraph is redacted. It is fascinating to see that at certain points, if you read through the complaint, that not only are they trying to act as if when they are taking great care of this Black icon, specifically mentioning her race is a very interesting touch, as if, yes, I have the best interest at heart for this Black woman, and she is just unwell. It is very fascinating because Sabrina Morrissey, there have also been communications with the family where she has threatened the family, Wendy Williams' family, specifically stating, hey, we will not allow Wendy to come down and see you. The majority of her family does live in South Florida. Wendy Williams did state to Don Lemon as well as the Breakfast Club that she currently is trying to get permission from Sabrina Morrissey, since Sabrina Morrissey controls everything she does, to go to her father's 94th birthday next month. And currently, Sabrina Morrissey has told her, well, I don't know, maybe we'll see. She allegedly also gave her pets away, which is very wild. What is the most interesting is the fact that the judge that was put in place even awarded guardianship. Again, skipped over an entire family where there are multiple people of sound mind. There's her niece, there's her son, there's her sister as well. There are multiple people. And then she assigned this random woman and was like, yes, this is who is going to be in charge of you that you do not know. And then essentially Sabrina assigns a caretaker, and the caretaker has to be with Wendy 24/7 because Sabrina has estimated between 40 and 50 people under her guardianship. So of course she cannot watch all of these people, but she has enough time to watch their money, which is very fascinating and also objectively wild. And if you go through that complaint, the entirety of the complaint demonizes the documentary because the majority of the documentary is Wendy Williams stating how awful her guardianship is. And Wendy Williams stating, like, hey, life is hard, but also like, what the hell is going on? It is very much a hard watch. If you compare where she is in the documentary to how she sounds now, she does sound a lot better. And that is likely probably after the documentary came out, Sabrina and her team probably gave her a bit of better treatment because it's now coming out of like, what the heck are you doing? First of all, why are you in charge of any of this? But also like, how is this quick deterioration happening to somebody in such rapid succession? All right. So one of the things that has been brought up is current legislation going on in order to help protect people who are in guardianships. And in my opinion, it doesn't go far enough, and it does not get to the root of why is it that one elected judge, our state Supreme Court judges here in the state of New York, they're elected. They are not appointed. They are running for reelection again. If we as a community deem like, you know what, this is nefarious, there's something wrong, we can literally elect somebody else, which I think we should do because something here is not right. So the current legislation that was mentioned in the Breakfast Club is Carolyn's Law. So Senator Palumbo, who is a state senator here in New York, a Republican, has offered an amendment to the law. And one of the things that I think is really important when we hear that a politician is proposing a law and we're like, okay, well, that sounds good, that's gonna fix the problem. Always important to look up what they're actually trying to fix. This law is a very thin band-aid. So Carolyn's Law prevents a guardian, care manager, or power of attorney from arbitrarily terminating visitation rights. I don't know why they put the text in gray. They need to change this website. Anyways, this is from this New York, what was I going to say? Government websites, they need to put a little more taxpayer money towards, because why would this not be in black? It's in gray. Anyways, let me lean in. Okay. Carolyn's Law prevents a guardian, so this is proposed, care manager, or power of attorney from arbitrarily terminating visitation rights and isolating vulnerable individuals who are being held in involuntary guardianship. Wendy Williams is currently in an involuntary guardianship. There are voluntary ones where the person is like, hey, I'm turning 100. I'm tired. Can you take care of this? That is not what's going on. The bill provides for the ward or family members who have been denied their due process rights to be heard and to have an evidentiary hearing before the court within 10 days of bringing an application. Now, interestingly enough, this is regarding visitation. So currently right now, as was stated earlier in the interview, visitation is determined solely by Sabrina Morrissey, as well as the people at this facility where Wendy Williams is being held. Now, this is a woman being held in a semi-public private facility, a woman that has worked her entire life and has amassed $50 million. If something was wrong and she needed some type of care, most people, regular people, are able to stay and tell their family member, like, hey, you know what? I need some help. And you hire home health aid. There's absolutely no reason for her to be locked into this place. One of the interesting things about this law that the Breakfast Club did bring up was because there's no legal team there to review the veracity of the law, and that they missed was this law is assuming that everybody in a guardianship is rightfully in the guardianship. It only is granting visitation. Visitation, when you are illegally being held against your will, is doing what? Nothing. We need laws instead that actually change and overhaul our entire guardianship process, because clearly we have seen throughout the recent years that guardianship has been is being used to weaponize is being weaponized against very, I would say, like wealthy women. It is also being weaponized against elderly people that at least have some type of 401k, a little bit of money, and maybe don't have a lot of family members. It is very skewed regarding genders and is weaponized more against more women than it is men. And the process of guardianship, the way all this happened, again, Wells Fargo, a bank, went to the court, filed their filing fee in the petition, and stated, hey, our client, we don't think she's okay. Actually, somehow we got her medical records. How is a bank getting the medical records of a private citizen? Yes. I'm not convinced that the judge is not to blame and is not culpable at some point here, because it doesn't make any sense. Wells Fargo did that, and then one judge single-handedly said, yes, I agree with this corporation, and not only do I agree, I have picked this random career conservator, and I have assigned this random career conservator to this woman above her 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, however many family members. That is not a transparent legal process. That doesn't seem like a fair legal process. It is very much our conservator laws and guardianship laws. They are very archaic. A lot of them are from the 1800s. And during the 1800s, a lot of wealthy white men, when they were either annoyed with their wife, tired with their wife, or just evil, decided to throw a lot of their white wives in sanatoriums, which is the former word for an asylum, which now have turned into various hospitals, etc., or have been taken down. None of these laws were ever rooted in equitable practice of, hey, what if somebody actually needs some help? The laws themselves have originated from a place of harm. So I think I would say, without trying to go with the complete bias, and just on the basic research, there have now been news articles that I was not able to corroborate where they were getting the sources from, that have questioned whether or not the judge in this instance, whether or not the judge has received donations from other people that she has helped with conservatorships, which I think is a very interesting question that I was not able to corroborate. It did not seem that Sabrina Morrissey was donating to the judge's election whatsoever, because again, this is state Supreme Court in New York. These are elected people, and elected judges do get campaign funds, which is very fascinating. And because we have Citizens United, which is one of the most trifling Supreme Court cases that we have in this country, so you are allowed to fundraise from whoever and wherever. So it's very, very interesting. Currently, what's happening now, since this has now been thrust into the news, into the main media, Wendy Williams and her family, they are trying to hire a different legal team, because clearly the past lawyer, what did the past lawyer do? They're hiring a different legal team that specializes in conservatorships, in probate, and that legal team now, I'm assuming their first order is to get rid of the conservatorship, but also to file an inquiry into the judge, because none of the steps that the judge took, none of the steps make logical or legal sense. And then an inquiry would have to be filed into Sabrina Morrissey, who is a lawyer herself, as to how has she built a business on this, which is legal, and why is that legal for someone to be a career conservator? That probably shouldn't be legal. We probably should have laws against somebody profiting off of people in need. All right. So let's go to some of these comments. All right. From We Catalyst. This is so scary. We all see what's happening and yet nothing can be done to shut this down. It is frightening because if this is happening to a person with so much money, what is happening to because again, last year alone, the allegation is that Justice Lisa Sokoloff that she awarded 22 guardians to Sabrina Morrissey. The other 22 people are probably various levels of means and money. Some of them are probably elderly people that don't have a lot of family and may have worked during the 80s and 90s and have pensions. My grandpa is a pensioner. Pensions don't exist anymore. The pensioners are living good. The people that have pensions that don't exist, what is happening to the regular people as well if this is also happening to Wendy Williams? This is a great point. Rhymes with Binda. Part of it is because the states have a very binary understanding of capacity, which is not reflective of how many conditions where capacity fluctuates. Yes. And I think Wendy Williams is a prime example where if you watch the documentary, clearly it's probably the stress of losing her mother, probably her recently leaving rehab, general stress, divorcing her trifling husband, all of these things going through the media rigmarole. Where in the documentary, she clearly is experiencing various level of crisis. However, in the interviews, she sounds significantly improved. So it is very interesting how the law is very black and white. And as we saw in the Britney Spears case and what's playing out in the Wendy Williams case is a lot of these judges are just using the initial medical diagnosis and they're just holding on to it. Wendy Williams, in her interview with Don Lemon, she stated that she has been trying to get a hold of a doctor to reevaluate her to say, hey, I'm not incapacitated. I'm in my right mind. I'm annoyed because I'm being held in this room that I don't want to be in. But, I can chit chat. I'm fine. I know where I am. I know what's going on, etc. And Sabrina Morrissey has not allowed her to do that. And then one of the things to be noted is because she does not have access to her money, she has stated that she only has $15, which is objectively wild for a woman who earned $50 million and it was sitting in Wells Fargo's bank. Because she does not have access to her own money, she is also not able to go and just call up a doctor and say, hey, can you please come to this facility and reassess me? All right. Wait, that's an actual it should not be an actual job. I would say it should not be an actual job for someone to be a career conservator. However, legally it is, and that is one of the roots of the issue because clearly you have somebody who's just preying on people with money. Or people who probably like don't even have that money but are calculating based on like, okay, if I get 30 new clients this year and they have X amount of money, now I have this level of money, which is very, very interesting. Yes, I remember when I first did the lawsuit, to Gigi's point, this sounds like the Netflix movie I Care a Lot. The lady was running the scam. That was a comparison that people made when I did the first original one. All right. And to Lydia's point, she has a GoFundMe to pay for the lawyer. Yes, she's currently raising $50,000 to pay for the lawyer because she does not have access to her funds. Right. And I agree. An investigation needs to go into Wells Fargo. That entire bank stays screaming unethical. Wells Fargo, TD Bank also. TD Bank came like under very quiet fire a couple months ago, where they have now been forced to pay a fine because it came out that they were essentially money laundering hundreds of millions of dollars for the cartel. Yes. And interestingly enough, it only came out because the cartel was being cheap and the employees they were using to do this, they were giving them like gift cards, $10,000. And meanwhile, the employees were funneling hundreds of millions of dollars. Yeah. But yes. So on that note, I will hopefully they will be able her new lawyer will be able to unseal her records. I think one of the ways that Britney's team, when she was able to find a new team and all the lawyers that helped her, the way they were able to finally succeed and get her out of her conservatorship was getting her records unsealed. Her father, because he was so bold, her records for a long time, they were just public information. They were public information, but because they kept her conservatorship so much on the low, nobody looked for many years with Britney Spears. It seems to be that Sabrina Morrissey and Wells Fargo, to a certain point, that they have tried to play this a lot smarter. And that is why they sealed the records 1 month after they filed the petition. As of March 2022, you couldn't find those records online. They're only online now on YouTube videos with people that memorialized the initial petition in February 2022. So hopefully the new lawyer is able to unseal her records and then start the process of getting her out of this conservatorship, and then getting her money back, and then getting her restitution, and making sure that not only does she sue for all of this happening, that she actually presses charges against Wells Fargo for fraud, as well as against Sabrina Morrissey, because this is objectively wild. And the only way these types of career conservators are going to be stopped is if they have consequences. So, on that note, oh, this is a good point from Britt. There are public conservators as well in California. They are county employees, but they are inundated. I assume the public conservators function more like social workers, where they're checking on you, versus these private conservators. They have clearly like a very nefarious incentive to trap people. So, on that note, I will catch y'all next week. I hope you're hanging in there as we trudge along through this administration. Let me know what topics you would like me to cover for next week. Hopefully, I'm going to try to do Tuesday. This Tuesday was just hard because Monday was a doozy for everyone. But I think we'll keep it to Tuesday. And if you don't see me on Tuesday, I will for sure pop up on Thursdays, and we will be back in our weekly live stream. So we're 2 weeks in a row. So on that note, if you are able, the GoFundMe for Wendy Williams is up. I believe it might be in the share. I should have pulled it up. I didn't pull it up in time for this, but it should be in the original Breakfast Club interview as well. So I hope y'all have a good almost weekend. If you are in the South, I hope you enjoyed the snow. I really enjoyed all of y'all's videos of y'all playing in the snow, particularly the residents of Louisiana and the residents specifically of Houston, all of the sliding on the various things. It brought me a lot of joy, because as somebody that lives in New York, you know, the snow is varying levels of annoying, but it did remind me to appreciate the snow. So I hope y'all have a wonderful night. All right, catch y'all later.